It's a lot to go back and revisit these memories that are so vivid. I mean, there's just so many parts of my life that I can't remember as vividly as I can remember the sheer panic of feeling like my life was over.
Friends of friends of friends of friends who were hearing about the girl who got pregnant in Auburn, and they wanted to follow me and see what happened to me. It felt almost like I was like this circus show, and I was like, no, I will not be treated like that.
When you don't know somebody, but they're basically saying, I'm just interested to judge and look at your story and figure it out and timeline you. And I mean, it hurt beyond words to be able to, like you said, you feel like a circus animal.
It's nationals, which that's grown women running these sororities rules. So we will have to kick you out of the sorority. And like, that was such a like, kick me while I'm down. We sit there and tear down these women.
You lose everything. You lose a lot of friends. You lose your college experience. You lose what getting engaged normally would look like, what getting married looks like normally. You give up a lot. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're diving into part 2 of Lauren's story, a powerful look at how Greek life and her closest friends stepped up in ways that carried her through one of the hardest seasons of her life. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, make sure to go back and catch that first. It gives you all the context behind her unplanned pregnancy journey and sets the stage for everything we're talking about today. So without further ado, let's jump on into part 2 with Lauren.
Our whole wedding was very weird. So we got married at the end of July.
Okay.
And all that summer, you know, as word starts spreading, that was back in the time when like, you know, no Instagram, not even Pinterest. It was just Facebook.
Just Facebook, yep.
And that was a big deal. And I was getting hundreds of Facebook friend requests every single day.
Yes.
And half of them were like, they're in Auburn, but I don't know them. And then half of them were like at Alabama.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't even go to the University of Alabama, but they were friends of friends of friends of friends who were hearing about the girl who got pregnant in Auburn, and they wanted to follow me and see what happened to me.
Yep.
And I to this day don't accept anybody on Facebook unless, like, before that I'd be like, sure, yeah, I met you once, or like, yeah, I think I've seen you around, sure. After that I was like, if we don't talk on a regular basis or like at least see each other all the time in the community or something, and we've had conversations like I've met you in person, I'm not adding you on Facebook. No. Because it felt almost like I was like this circus show, and I was like, no, I will not be treated like that. You don't get to know. You'll have to find out secondhand. Yep. You won't learn it through my Facebook post. Like, this is going to be for my actual friends.
I'll never forget. I knew everyone in my sorority, and every one of their friends found out the day my Facebook blew up with all sorts of friend requests. And I could see, you know, common denominators of, okay, these are older girls in the sorority. These are younger girls in the sorority. This is a friend of a girl in my sorority. And that feeling when you don't know somebody, but they're basically saying, I'm just interested to judge and look at your story and figure it out and timeline you. And I mean, it hurt beyond words to be able to, like you said, you feel like a circus animal. Everyone's looking, and they're going to look at every step you make. And honestly, a part of it fueled me in a way of, you know what? I'm going to, all the eyes are there, and I'm going to show you that I'm going to finish how I started. Everything I intended to do, this isn't going to change it. Now, and I've spoken on this podcast before about how my sorority handled that situation was extremely wounding. And I feel like they've come a long way, but did you feel any sort of resentment, stigma, forcing of being, you know, stepping aside from the sorority? What was your experience in sorority life when everybody started finding out you're pregnant?
Absolutely, 100%. I remember getting a call from the president, which, you know, at this point I'm like still considered freshman. I haven't even started my sophomore year. And, you know, the scary senior president calls me and is like, hey, so I hear you're pregnant. Like, it didn't even cross my mind that I needed to tell them I was pregnant. No. I didn't tell them.
I didn't either.
And so they call me and they're like, hey, so we found out you're pregnant, and so you can't be pregnant in the sorority. It's a like nationals rule. And she was like, it's really a rule for all sororities. And I just remember being in shock. And she was like, but you're getting married, right? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, well then technically you can become an alumni, but only if you get married before the baby arrives. And she was like, when's the wedding? And so I like tell her, like, it's in July, the baby's due in November, and like all the things, or in January. And all the things. And she was like, okay, well, just know that if that doesn't happen, that she was like, I don't want to be mean. Like, she was trying to be nice about it. Like, it wasn't her choice. But it's nationals, which that's grown women running these sororities rules. So we will have to kick you out of the sorority. And like, that was such a like, kick me while I'm down type of it's so stupid, which honestly, I don't know much about what they've, changed in the sorority rules. So, I hope that they are making improvements from a national level. It shouldn't just be at Auburn or whatnot, but like, that's dumb because at the same time that I was getting that call, Frank he was in a fraternity and recruitment chair. So he was one of the recruitment chairs. So he's literally spending his whole summer going to all these parties with a bunch of kids to recruit them. None of them know that he's getting married. None of them know that his girlfriend's pregnant. None of them care. None of them care. That's, I think, what I had the biggest chip on my shoulder. I did then, but especially now, like coming out of it of like, that is messed up in our culture and is something that I really hope we as a culture can work to change, because we sit there and tear down these women and celebrate the men. The men are celebrated that they got a girl pregnant, whether they have anything to do with it or not. And then girls are treated like, because again, I had a great foundation of people who knew me and knew my heart and they supported me, but I know everybody else was judging me. I heard the stories. I mean, I saw the friend request, you know.
Oh, yeah, you know.
So like, and I heard that talked about way before me. Every girl that I had kind of sort of had a connection with that got pregnant, everybody knew. And so, and it was talked down like, oh, how could she get pregnant? Like, can't believe she was so stupid to do that. Like, I got pregnant. Like, we had sex like a few times. And we were using protection. And it did not break.
Still happens.
So I'm the whatever percentage it is, 0.001 or whatever it is, I'm one of those. So like, it just makes me mad. But like, is he stupid? No, he's not stupid. I'm stupid. He's not stupid. And that it really irks me, especially when you look at our culture and the fact that not all the time, but a lot of times there are, in a relationship, the guy's usually the one pushing for those things. Regardless, I dated a ton of guys that were pushing me to do it, and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. But a lot of times that's the case, and yet the guys are still not held responsible, even culturally. Like, regardless of what all goes down, it's not even a thing. Like, Frank wasn't getting blown up for friend requests. Like, it's bizarre. And no one cared that he was getting married, that he was having a baby. He wasn't kicked out. He was there all 4 years. Whereas I had to be an alumni or be kicked out. And I had no choice about it.
I'd be curious what those standards are now.
I would be too.
It may be something you and I need to dig into a little bit more after this episode.
Like, come on, guys. It's 2025. Let's go. Let's make some changes for the better.
I get it. I get you don't want to promote it. I get you don't want to have a bunch of girls who are pregnant in your sorority. But you know what? If you really think that it's our dream to go get knocked up in college, you are sadly mistaken. That is no one's dream. You don't think, oh, this is what would be great for me. You lose everything. You lose a lot of friends. You lose your college experience. You lose what getting engaged normally would look like, what getting married looks like normally. You give up a lot. And like you said, to kick a dog when they're down, when you are sisterhood, it blew my mind that that was the decision that I was facing. At least they had an honest conversation with you. How they handled me was they tried kicking me out, saying I didn't sign a form. They didn't even want to acknowledge that it was because I was pregnant. And then I knew, oh yeah, they were like, so you're getting kicked out. You didn't sign this form on time. And I was like, well, hold on. That's usually a fine when you don't sign something on time. You don't get kicked out. And finally sat down with our advisor, and she's like, you did this to yourself. You made these decisions. You can no longer be with us. And I told her, I will fight you. I will scream, like kick and scream. I mean, I was a junior. I had paid my dues. If I ever had a daughter, I wanted her to at least have an open experience with Greek life. And they allowed me to go alum. But what's wild is so many other girls in the sororities and in Greek life, they're having sex. We're the ones that got caught. It happens. But to take away a friend group and to not allow you to go to sorority events anymore, to wear your sorority letters, they take away everything that you have built. And you're already navigating how different it is on your own. I'm just very curious to see, where are they sorority? Like, where is national these days with these decisions? Because even after I kept my son years down the road, multiple women in my sorority messaged me and applauded me for having him because they could see, oh my God, her life wasn't over. Look, she got married. She has a career. Like, it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. And through that came messages of, I got pregnant too, and I made a different decision because I didn't want to lose all of this, and I didn't think that was possible. And that crushed my heart to hear girls tell me that they felt pressure to make a decision in which they didn't want to make because they were scared of losing their friends in Greek life. What world are we living in? Female empowering females is where we should be, and not, oh, that one's embarrassing, so we need to hide her.
Exactly. I totally agree. Because, like, at the end of the day, like, it's supposed to be a support system. It's supposed to be a way to get to know people and support each other. And, like, the number one, it is easy to support people when things are easy. But
Right.
the true definition of a friend is someone who has your back all the time. And, that is what it's supposed to be. With Frank continuing in a leadership position.
Yes.
It was fine. And he did that all year long. He still did all the things. Ava Hayes came, he still did all the things. And you're like, this is crazy. Whereas I was like, you had to be an alumni. And going back to what my dad said, you're adding a life to this world. Mm-hmm. That is a miraculous thing. Yes. And there are women all over the world who can't have a baby, and they would love to.
Exactly.
And so why are we acting like you're having a baby, so it's an evil thing? It's you are still having a baby. It is still a miracle, regardless of when it happens, and it should be celebrated either way, in my opinion. So yeah. I would be totally down to go look at that with you. And
we're going to do it. I'm going to add it to my list of things because they need to hear some voices. I rub shoulders. Well, when I lived in Auburn, I rubbed shoulders with some of our adult leaders because our kids are the same age. You know, we're playing in the T-ball leagues together, and I'm having to sit on a bench.
All my friends are older. Yes.
And so it's very curious. So after you have Ava and you go back to school, how do you and Frank juggle having a baby and still being in school full time, the both of you?
It was crazy. It was very, very difficult. Good thing I am like a psycho planner. And I am, like I said, I am stubborn to a fault. So like when I was very much like you, I was like, y'all better watch me. I'm about to like blow this up. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to do awesome. And I will be danged if I'm the one who doesn't graduate and graduate with honors and graduate on time. So I actually graduated a semester early. Wow. I graduated summa cum laude. And, I go back to school when I'm pregnant with her, take 18 hours. The next semester after she was born, so spring of my sophomore year, I took like 1 or 2 online classes. Like I think one was computer, you know, back in the day we had to learn computer as a business major, and then like maybe an English class. Okay. And that were online. And so I could do my work at home and whatnot. And then Frank went full time. Okay. And then in the summer of our sophomore year, I did as many hours as they would let me do. So I was going every single day from like 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. taking all the classes I could. And because summer classes are longer since it's a shorter amount of time. And Frank stayed home with Ava Hayes. So he was Mr. Mom while I was just at work or school all day long, Monday through Friday, and then coming home and studying. And so that worked. That was a lot easier. Not easier, but more manageable. And then going into our junior and senior years, we both took, all of our hours. I would literally sit down and I would be like, all right, what classes do you have to graduate? He was a, dental major. So science.
Yeah.
All those things. And so there was a lot less there's one biology class, so you have to take it type of thing. And I was a marketing business major. So I had some classes I had to take and then others that I had some flex on. So I would sit there and I'd be like, all right, we have to take these. These are our options. So you could take this or that. And then I'd go on back then when you had to rate my professor, which is great. And I'd be like, all right, I know, right? And I'd be like, all right, we're strategizing this. I want us to have the easiest teachers we can get. Like, this teachers, this class or whatever. And there was a few times where I'm like, all right, I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to take the hardest teacher because I need you to take this class so I can take this class and we can alternate Ava Hayes. So she did a Mother's Day Out program.
Okay.
And she would go from 9 to 12. Okay. On Monday through Thursday.
That's not much time.
No, it is not. But we could not afford full-time daycare. Okay. So that was all we could afford. Thankfully, my parents are amazing. So they financially helped us through college. And then Frank also worked a job. And Frank also he's very smart. So he had more money that he was given from Auburn than it cost to go to Auburn. So we would live, there was just a little, I think it was maybe $2,000 a semester, and we would live off of that, plus supplements from my parents and what he made at a pizza parlor for the whole semester. So he did that, and then I literally would go and get approval from my advisor to take more hours than you're allowed to take.
Wow.
So I was taking 20 something, 22, 23. I think you're only supposed to take maybe 18 or 19.
Sure. Yeah.
And a lot of people stick around to 15 hours and I'm 22, 23 hours over there.
With the baby.
And with the baby. And so she would go to Mother's Day Out. And what we would do is one of us would go to that 8 o'clock class. The other one would go get her up, get her ready, take her to Mother's Day Out at 9, and then go to class, and then we'd both be at class. And then one of us had to be done by that 11:30, depending if it's Monday or Tuesday, mark, to go pick her up and then come back. So most semesters, I would go pick her up. The way our schedule worked, I would go pick her up, drive back to campus, pick up Frank from the science building, drive to the business building. We'd both get out of the car. We'd switch spots. He'd get in the driver's seat. I'd go to class, and then he would drive home. And she would go, take her nap, and he would study and do all things. He'd be Mr. Mom in the afternoon. So and I would usually take for whatever reason, there was always an 8 a.m. and that was the only class for him for biology and all those science classes. So it just worked out that he had a lot of those and I had more 9s. So it worked out. Wow. But, we made it work. And then Fridays, we had 0 coverage. So again, it'll make me cry like always, but I had the most amazing, just friends from everywhere that were okay, every semester, a different person took Ava Hayes. So during that time where we overlapped, goes back to that whole sorority thing we're talking about. I pulled up. There was 5 boys coming out of that fraternity house. When I pulled up, they were helping me get the stroller out. They were helping me get the diaper bag out. They were helping, they didn't know what to do, but they're just holding Ava Hayes like this, okay, what do I do with her now? They let me park at the house, even though I'm obviously not a fraternity boy, but they were you park here all you want, because the house was right by the business building. And so I parked there the whole sophomore through senior year, which was so nice. And so I'd get her out. They would come running out. They would help me. They would, if they were walking that way, would walk with me to class. And I would meet whoever it was, usually around the sorority dorms one semester. One semester it was the business building. And then another one, I had a friend coming from Tumors. And so I would pass the business building, she would be walking from Tumors and we'd meet midway, and she would take Ava Hayes to her apartment that was like on that side of campus. So Ava Hayes stayed everywhere, but different times were, different scenarios. And so she was in the dorms for one semester. She was in a friend's apartment by Tumors one semester. And they would watch her on Friday so that I could, be able to go to class and not miss. And, I didn't pay them anything. They're just like, this is what we're going to do. And, I had one girl, her name was Catherine Kelly, and she was a friend of mine just from friends, and she was up for Miss Auburn, and she was watching Ava Hayes that semester, which was always weird. Side note, how it came about, I would always be like, someone would be like, okay, so, what are your classes like for next semester? Like, who's going to watch Ava Hayes? Like, that was just such a normal conversational piece, I guess, that my friends would bring up. And so she was just sitting with us and some other friends who were talking about it. And I was like, I don't have anyone to watch her Fridays. And she was like, I can do it. Like that's how it always happened. Someone was like, I got you. I can do it. I didn't really have to hunt for it. Like and I don't even know how it just happened. And I was always so grateful and thankful for that. But, so anywho, she was up for Miss Auburn, and I remember going to her and being like, Catherine, like, I know, like, you'll be campaigning all that week, and, like, Friday's the big day, so, like, I'll find someone else to watch Ava Hayes, like, no worry. And she was like, ma'am, no, she is going to be with me. I want her on the concourse campaigning with me. Like, I want her to have a matching shirt with all the other girls wearing my campaign shirts. And I was like, are you sure? She was like, yeah, actually, can you bring her early so she can be with me all day? Like, I think she would love it. She would have so much fun. All the girls love her. So it wasn't just Catherine watching her. It was like 10 girls watching her all the time. They would just all like sit in the dorm and play with her. And she, getting spoiled over there. And so she did. She went that day and she was campaigning for Miss Auburn and all the things. And she didn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. But to me, again, I don't think I ever told her that. It meant so much to me that she was like, oh no, she is my Ava Hayes. So I want her, and like, she is part of my life and she is part of my story, and I want her there. So I meant a lot. And we also had there was a few times where if whoever was watching Ava Hayes, if they were coming out of a class, because a lot of times they'd be like, okay, well, I'm ending class when that 10-minute break between classes. So if they had a test, sometimes your test, they might give you a few extra minutes and it run long. And for whatever reason, all those professors, the tests all kind of fall in the same weeks for everybody, right? Yeah. So if they had a test the same day I had a test, which happened multiple times, then, we'd be like, all right, well, we need a backup plan in case something happens. So, and they were like, well, she can just hang out here for 20 minutes and Catherine or whoever was watching her can come pick her up from there, Oh yeah, just tell Anna, give Anna my number and she can pick her up from here. And she did. And I was like, all right, can she just not crawl around on the beer soaked floor? That would be really great.
Sticky beer pong floors.
Yes, and don't let her put things in her mouth, and just you don't have to feed her. If she has a poopy diaper, it's fine. Just leave it, but just make sure she doesn't choke and die, or and they'd be like,
keep her alive.
And they'd just be holding her like this for 20 minutes. So it worked. I was like, okay, they'd be, and then we also had a lot of Franks. He had 3 friends from high school that lived a few houses down. So we lived in that Eagles Landing. Yes. There was all college kids, but they were basically mini houses. Yes. That were all one big den and kitchen, but then 4 rooms, which is insane how that even happened. Right. And they lived a few houses down. So if anything ever happened, or if Frank was late getting out of class, because he had a few professors that kept letting him out late, and I would be like, I'm not gonna make it to class, and they would come up and watch her for us all the time. Or if we needed to study, I had friends that would come and watch her so we could study, and not just the girls, it was also the guys. And that meant a lot to me. And it was funny. They're like, they learned how to change a diaper and how to feed a baby because, like, they were like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll watch her. Like, what do I do? You know?
Oh my gosh. Even you just talking about the fraternity guys, I mean, my eyes were just welling up with tears because I have 4 boys. And man, to instill in them that the importance of not being scared of, you know, a baby and a plan that goes awry, you know, and not your typical college life, and seeing a woman in need and just stepping up and stepping into it without any hesitation of how it's going to make you look. Bravo to those mamas who raised those boys. Bravo, because that was a difference maker for you in your journey and finishing school. They're a piece of that. And as men, shoot, I don't expect the women to stand up and help me, but the men, not even on the radar. So to hear that totally blows my mind. And I hope I raise young men that would do the exact same thing when they're in college.
It was great, and I wouldn't have made it without all those people. And I've always said, like, I need to just find time to, like, sit down and, like, message all those people and be like, I know it's been 15 years, but, like, thank you so much.
Yes.
Like, you have no idea. Like, I remember all that you did for me, and I'm so thankful for all that you did for me, because you didn't have to do it, but I would not have made it without you. And it's like, it's not just that one person, it's like 40 different people that were part of my story that weren't my family, that had, you know, only known me freshman year, and were like, well, we got you. Like, and it's almost like a domino effect. It was almost like I had this core group of people that were like, well, we got your back. And then it just like, you know, it was almost like a trend. Like, it really is. It is a part of our culture to shunt people who are pregnant. And I feel like very much that, you know, I'm just a strong Christian. So I feel like that's part of my story. And part of my story was to change that perspective. And I know I did that because I know, and not me, but my story did that because of the domino effect of all those people being like, yeah, we're going to support her. Yeah, we're going to support her. Yeah, I'm going to support her too. How can I help you? And they all did it in different ways. And that was a big deal. I mean, when I had Ava Hayes, she came early. She came almost 8 weeks early. So it was over Thanksgiving break. So I still had a week of class and the week of exams. And so she came early. I was, you know, had to be stitched up and stuff. So I wasn't allowed to drive for days. And she was ambulance because she was so early all the way to Birmingham. So she's in the NICU in Birmingham, like, you know, fighting to breathe and stay alive. And so I had so many friends who even just were like, let me send you my notes from today. And like, they'd be like, I'm going to get so-and-so and so-and-so to also send you notes because in case I missed anything. And like, you know, like they helped me get through it. And like, they probably don't even think that they did, but they did.
I know it.
And I remember it. I remember every person who helped me do that. I remember every person who sent me their notes that week so that I could study and figure out what the heck was going on so I didn't blow those exams and fail out.
In the hospital.
In the hospital. I remember after she was born, emailing my teachers being like, hey, so I had gone and talked to them that first week of class to be like, hey, should be fine, but I am pregnant. So like, baby's due in January, we should be good, but like, you know, just in case. And thank God I did, because then I'm like, hey, I'm not coming back. Like, how can we do these exams? My child is trying not to die, so I would like to be here as much as possible. How do we do that? And I was very fortunate, you know, to have teachers that I had 3 or 4 that were like, okay, when can you come? Because I was like, I can't physically drive.
Right.
So like Frank drove me to some of my exams, like from Birmingham to Auburn back. My dad took off work to drive me to some of them. My mom drove me to some of them. It was like this whole coordinated effort just to get me to go take exams, which is crazy in itself.
But you did it.
I did it, and they helped me do it. And I had one professor, and I remember him to this day. I don't remember his name, but I remember his face, and I remember that email. And he was like, you have had an A in my class all year long, and you have way more important things than to take an exam. He was like, consider it taken care of. you don't have to come and take this exam. You've already proved yourself. So you have an A in my class. Don't worry about it. And I was like, oh, like just to have one less exam
Oh my goodness.
was huge, because I was sitting there in the hospital studying. And that was so huge.
I can only imagine.
One of the other things I think, and I do think maybe they have improved this. I remember someone actually wrote an article about it when I was in Auburn, and they interviewed me and like two other girls who had all gotten pregnant at Auburn and were still in school. And but like there is no rules, or at least back then there wasn't, on what to do in that situation, because technically, like, I had one teacher, and she was and it was a woman, so mean to me about it. And she was like, well, you're not sick. And I'm like, I know I'm still coming to take the exam, but like, I physically cannot drive there. I have no one to drive me there. And I'm an hour and a half away, so I can pump and give my child milk, you know, because she's a NICU, and that they say that's important. Like, what do you want me to do? And this wasn't the plan. Yeah. We're 8 weeks early here. Yeah. And so I do hope that for anyone listening that is in the administrative field of like some sort, you know, you don't have to hand it to us, but like give us some ability to, when necessary, make those changes. I think it's necessary and important. And again, don't shut the door on the face of someone who is working hard, but there's things out of their control. Like, absolutely. That wasn't my goal to have that baby early. Yeah. And for her to be fighting for her life. If I could have held her in for 2 more weeks, I would have done it. Yes. That was out of my control.
Yes. So what did it feel like to graduate? I mean, you had overcome so much. You had your baby so early in your college career. So you just navigated the whole gambit of situations. What was that day like walking across the stage?
I was relieved to be done. Like, the whole time I had this whole sheet, and I had listed every single class I had to take, from sophomore year to senior year. And I love my checklist. And I was like, just every semester, I loved being able to like cross it off and be like, okay, I can see like I have this many more, and then this many more, and this many more. And I always joke with Frank, I'm like, you may be smarter than me, but I graduated from Auburn in 3.5 semesters, and it took you 4. Like, come on. Which, you know, that's just, yes. I get to hang my one hat, right?
Absolutely.
But I was relieved to be done and know I made it. And, because the whole time you're going through that. Like, again, like I said, I was like, oh no, I'm going to show y'all. But you're also in the back of your head like, can I?
Yes.
Can I do this? Can I make it?
Yep.
What happens if I don't?
Yep.
How am I going to support not just myself, but now a baby? Like, I'm already behind. I'm already not able to, like, you have these ideas in your head. Okay, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get this great job, and I'm going to start saving up, and I'm going to get a house, and then I'm going to have a child. Yep. And now you're like, well, now we put the cart before the horse. Exactly. Have a baby, and we're just trying to make ends meet every single week, and like have enough food to feed, and like pay for diapers, and get to class, and keep her healthy and myself healthy, and all those things. And then, you know, then we're like, all right, Frank was wanting to go to dental school, so you're like, all right, now we have 7 more years. Oh, yes. And so how are we going to do that? So my biggest goal was like, okay, like, no, like, you're going to go and you're going to be a dentist, and you're going to do what your goal is too. So I'm going to get out of school as quickly as I can, so I can start making money for our family as quickly as I can. And I started a job in January there in Auburn in marketing, and was not making much because I was right at the recession. So that was not a great time to be graduating, but worked my butt off all the way through him being in dental school and orthodontic residency for 7 more years, because he didn't get paid for all of that. So it definitely felt like we were always behind, and that was hard. We actually, again, my parents are just so amazing, and they knew. They were like, all right, Frank's gonna, you know, go to dental school and orthodontic residency. Like, how are we going to help them through that? And he got into UAB, which is huge. There's fun fact, only about one dental school per state, minus like Texas and California. They have a few. But besides that, it's like, all right, here's the one in Mississippi and the one in Tennessee and the one in Alabama. So it was UAB or moving, which is terrifying with no money, you know, like it just, how are we even going to do that? So thank goodness, Frank got into UAB, which is one of the harder ones to get into. And that meant living in Birmingham where my parents live. So they sold their house, and bought this other house, again, at the recession. So it was this house that was like ginormous and it had sat on the market for 2 years.
Whoa.
And it had like all this work that needed to be done. It was livable, but it was just like, it was trashed. Yeah. There was holes in the walls and all sorts of stuff. And again, vacant for 2 years. Sure. So my parents bought that house and it had a entire separate living area in the basement.
Okay.
It had a second, what do you call it? Driveway and everything, just like crazy. And just like, that's just not normal. So like the fact that that even happened, it was part of our story and that came to fruition was crazy. So we lived with them for all those 7 years, which was such a blessing, because they made us pay rent every single month, but that rent went into an account so that we could save it towards buying a house. So actually the house I'm in right now, we bought with money. So very blessed that they helped set us up for success, because like we couldn't afford a house. And that also was so nice, you know, like in other countries, they live with different generations at the same time. And I'm like, I can see the appeal, guys, because I would wake up in the morning, I would go to school. My daughter went to Mother's Day out instead of daycare, which was so nice, even though I was working full time, because my mom would take her and then pick her up. And she did like their extended stay. So I think she went till like 3, but my mom would pick her up and she would take her to dance and she would take her to cheer or whatever she had. And, bring her home, and then we would all cook dinner together. Like our dinners were coordinated, like for all of us, and it was, I wouldn't have made it without that. It was so helpful and so, and such a special time. My daughter's so close to my parents because of that. And my son too, he was born while we were living there. So he's just super close to them because they're almost like a second set of parents, because they are there all the time. And that was so nice to have that. So, yeah, I think it was just relief knowing I could set us up for all those years ahead. And it was so crucial if he was going to go do 7 more years of school for me to get out and start making money, and support our family and support him through school, because we weren't going to make it. And dental school is it's a full-time job, then going home and studying. So he couldn't have a job. It wasn't possible. He would have been crashing out. So the only way we made it and made his dreams possible was me graduating early. So just relief that I made it, and to be proud to be like, okay, I did it. For all those people trying to follow me on Facebook. Here we are, you know, what, 2.5, 3.5 years later? 2.5. And I'm like, bam.
Yeah.
I did.
The life.
So
I love to wrap up our interviews with this question. And if you've listened to any of these episodes, I'm sure you know what's coming. But if you could go back and talk to 18, 19-year-old Lauren, who's staring at a positive pregnancy test in that moment, if you could talk to her, what advice would you give her?
I guess I would tell her, hold her head high. Be proud of the woman she is. And that one of the most amazing things you can do in this life is be a mom. I would not trade it for anything. I would not trade my child for anything. And I am so glad that I have her. And I am so glad that I have my son. And I would not trade a single frat party or, you know, any more years of my college experience for them. They are so much more to me than those. And even though it was so hard to let those things go, And I felt so left out. I quit getting on Facebook because I didn't want to see all the things I was missing out on. I didn't want to see that all my friends were at some fun party going out. And again, even though I wanted to be with my child, it's still, I wanted both, like I was selfish. I wanted both. And it was hard to let go of the future that I was going towards not happening anymore. And so to know that like, there is nothing more rewarding in this world than being a mom. And even though it is so hard, it also shapes you into the woman you are. And it makes you a better person. And no one will love you more than your babies. That is true unconditional love. And I remember having a haze and looking at my mom and being like, I get it. I get how you love me now. Like you don't understand how much your parents love you until you have a baby yourself. And then you're like, oh my God, like it's unexplainable how much you love them. And so I wouldn't trade it for anything. It is going to be okay. And it is going to be rewarding. And find your people that have your back and support you and hold your head high and just keep on trucking. Take it one moment at a time, one day at a time, and know that there's going to be hiccups on the way, and that's okay. That's part of life. And you can choose to look at those in two different ways. You can choose to look at them as like, oh, this is so horrible, or you can choose to see the good in them. And there's good in every single situation. You just have to dig hard enough for it. And I truly believe in that. And, it's going to be okay. The world's not ending.
It is not over. It's honestly just beginning.
Yeah. Yes. That's such a great way to put it. Such a great way to put it.
Well, Lauren, thank you so much for sharing your heart and your story and the real raw emotions that come from revisiting all of the hurdles that you have overcome. I really hope that women hear those hurdles and see, but you can push forward, you can push past them, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. You live a beautiful life with a beautiful family now, and there is hope. So I'm honored and grateful to get to interview you today. So thank you again so much.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. Thanks for having me. Yeah. And excited for us on this sorority plan. Let's do it.
Make some calls.
Let's make it better. Let's make it better.
Well, thank you. And to all of our listeners, we hope to have you back for our next episode of Unplanned and Untold. Bye-bye. Well, y'all, thank you so much for joining us today and all year long. This is our final episode of 2025, and we are incredibly grateful for every listener, every story, and every moment you've spent with us. We can't wait to be back with you in the new year. Our next episode drops January 14th. Until then, have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you in 2026.